All right, it is 6 o'clock, and we're going to call the meeting to order. I have a little bit of a statement I want to read. We do not have a quorum this evening. So I'm going to read something so everybody's familiar with what we're going to do this evening. Under the Texas Open Meetings Act, a council meeting must have a quorum to be a valid open meeting for the purposes of the act. A quorum is defined as a majority of the members of the governing body, including the mayor, and then without a quorum, the meeting is not a proper open meeting and the OMA does not apply to it. However, the absence of a quorum does not automatically prevent discussion. In some municipal rules, such as Chicago's, but this means that we can discuss procedural matters such as adjourning or recessing, but they cannot transact official business. So our key points tonight: we have no quorum, so this act does not govern what happens without a quorum, but discussion is possible. So we have two real important discussion and presentations tonight that we are going to go ahead and have, and there will be no binding action that we will make. But in a moment, when we open up the presentation with Kimley Horn, our EDC will open their meeting, and they do have a quorum, but actually on the agenda, they just have for discussion also, so they wouldn't be making any decisions tonight also. So we can technically discuss without a quorum. We just cannot make any decisions this evening. So I wanted to state that. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and if we can get a verification of our posting.
July 8th, 2026 by 5 p.m.
Thank you. And if we can have an invocation.
Yes, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this rain you've given us, and to bless this area with to cooling it down and giving us the moisture that we needed. I pray that you would be with us tonight, be with the people that are presenting, and give us good discussion, and we can make decisions in the future. Pray that you be with everybody here. Bless everybody. Give everybody a safe trip home in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Number 5 on the agenda is approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was our June 23rd, 2026 budget workshop. Oh, we can't approve it. What am I talking about? Sorry about that. I just read that. Okay, so on our consent agenda, is there anything in the reports that anybody would like to pull out and talk about?
Do public comment? Is there?
No, there was no public comment. There were no cards.
No. I've just been utilizing our lovely library the last couple months, and I just want to say, if you don't go to the library, you should. Lewis and friends are awesome.
Anybody else? No. Okay, I would like to ask Craig if he could come up for a second. Texas, we're potentially always in a drought, but especially this time of the year. And we've been blessed with rain today, because if not, we would have had to possibly go into some water restrictions. So I just would like Craig to explain what has to happen for us to go into water restrictions and what that means to the city.
Basically, our drought contingency would call for, you have 4 different stages, anywhere from a minor shortage to an extreme outage. First, starting off with, I don't know if everybody understands, but we're we've got a surface water plant that is fed from the Bosque River, so if the water flow in the Bosque River drops below 4 cubic feet per second, it basically triggers the drought contingency plans. Stage 1 will be basically voluntary restrictions. And that's with the intentions of dropping the water usage in town and to our wholesale customers by 5%, which is a considerable amount of water. Basically, every month we produce between 12 and 15 million gallons of water, and that's distributed between the city of Clifton and the city of Meridian. So 5% of roughly 500,000 gallons of water a day would be a significant drop. The next stage of drought contingency would be, or water restrictions would be stage 2, which would be could be triggered by a combination of low water flow in the river or some type of mechanical issue with our system. A well going down, a booster pump going down, and any combination of that. Stage 3 is a little bit more significant. Stage 2, right, I think it's basically, we're reducing down to about trying to reach a 10% reduction in water usage. Stage 3 would be, I believe it's 15%. And again, it just becomes bigger degrees of access to water. And it's, right now, like I say, we've got plenty of access to the river water. But if it wouldn't have rained today, we probably would have been down to close to 4 cubic feet per second at the river. So we could easily go into voluntary water restrictions. The other thing is, including our drought contingency plan, most of the state of Texas, TCEQ is directing everybody to go to mandatory stage 1 or 2 water restrictions, which basically means 3 days of water, 3 days of watering with irrigation systems. So that's one of these years we will be at that point also. I don't know if there's anything.
Do y'all have any questions? Which stage is it that we would go to odd and even watering?
I would say that's probably stage 2. That's basically the first stage of mandatory restrictions, and it reduces all municipality water usage. We turn off our sprinkler systems, slow down on our flushing programs. So
There's many cities already, council, and everybody that's out there listening, that are already in stage 2 water restrictions across the state of Texas. And as Craig stated, TCEQ and the state will more than likely make everything mandatory within a few years, just because the water table's dropping as we speak, and the creeks aren't running like they used to, and the rivers aren't. So a lot of people will be depending more on surface water than they will groundwater. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We just want to give everybody, let everybody know what's going on right now.
it's not, like I say, we're not at the point that we've got a shortage of water, but we're trying to preserve the operation of our system, plus not run out of water in the long term.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to move our agenda around a little, and I'm going to go ahead and bring agenda item D, and that is discussion by Steve Haar, who is the chairman of our Bosque Central Appraisal District. And we're going to be discussing the 2027 proposed budget.
Thank you very much. For those watching or that don't know me, I'm Steve Haar. I'm the president of the board of directors of the Bosque Central Appraisal District, and I've been here twice, and we've been to most of the taxing agencies twice. First to tell them we're getting ready to make a budget, then to tell them we've made a budget, and now we're here to start the dialogue with the taxing agencies about any questions or concerns that they have. And I know you have some people that are not here, and if I need to come back, I'm certainly willing to do that. 3 things I want to cover tonight. One, specifically where we are in our process, which I touched on that. Secondly, this is just a perspective, if you will, a backdrop against our budget. I want to talk about our board, because I think it's important for you to understand the board. because this is our budget, and I just think it bears on it. And then thirdly, I'm going to just touch on the budget because it's there's one thing in it that people get all wound up about, and the rest of it, nobody's mad about our postage or our rent or things like that. So let's talk about where we are. We have passed a preliminary budget. And again, just to emphasize, this is a planning tool. None of the money in it has been spent or necessarily will be spent, but it's a planning tool. You do budgeting, we do budgeting, everybody seems to know what that is, but it is a preliminary budget. The purpose of what will happen is we will have this conversation, you will have the opportunity to think about it until we pass a final budget, which will be somewhere in the late August, could be as late as September 15th. I don't know why we would wait that late, but we can. When that one is delivered to you, then that's when you have your 30 days to make a critical decision about acceptance, which under the silly state system we have means you do nothing, or rejection, which means you pass a resolution rejecting the budget. So there's nothing to vote on now. The second item on the agenda below me about taking a vote on it, it's not time. You wouldn't want to do that on a preliminary budget anyway. So we just are at the preliminary budget stage, and so it's our chance this year because this has never been done in the past, and it's been a two-way street. The BCAD has not come to the taxing agencies, and the taxing agencies really haven't come to the BCAD to ask questions and communicate. But we, as a new board, wanted to take that step. So that's where we are. The second thing I want to talk about is the board. The board over there, I've talked to you, I think I came and talked to you about this. Every 2 years, the entire board is voted on, all 5 people. So every 2 years, that board is a fresh bunch of faces. This year, there are 4 fresh new faces on it. And I want to tell you about them because this is really their budget. Our 5th member did not vote in favor of this budget, and I can answer questions about that if you want to, but principally, he didn't spend any time on it, he didn't contribute to it, and he didn't ask any questions at the meeting, but he just didn't vote for it. So I can't characterize that in any way other than we just said no. The 4 men who did work on this budget and who are the 4 new board members, each one of us came to the BCAD with no axe to grind, no background in the appraisal district. We didn't have any relationships with the people over there, either good or bad. We have no vendettas against anybody. We just had a fresh set of eyes on the whole operation of the appraisal district. And without any question, in the last number of years, the appraisal district's been under a lot of criticism, and there's been a lot of controversy about it. And so a lot of us, the 4 of us, really wanted to try to settle that down as best we can. I will say about this group, I'm really proud to be a part of them. They are really willing to look at the whole situation with fresh eyes, which means, in addition to taking a hard look at this budget, if we had felt after being involved in it for 6 months that it was time to clean house over there, that's what we'd do. And there's plenty of spine over there to do that if that was what we found, but that is not what we found. 2 of the people on this board come from 3 of them come from really intense business backgrounds. 2 of them built businesses from the ground up. Another one was a major project coordinator, builder of power plants all over the world. And then our 4th one is this very interesting, open-minded, inquisitive young man that loves Bosque County and is doing a great job. So I'm really glad to be a part of what they're doing over there. All 4 of them have invested a great deal of time in just asking questions about the process and what the district is like and how it works and how this budget works. And as I told you on one of my earlier trips here, we came to the budget process from a zero-based budget. We were going to look at it, strip it down, start over, and we did that. Most importantly, none of us are paid. We are all just givers of our time, but we are responsible for the budget. So that's the group that put this together, and the attitude, if you will, or the approach that we came to it. The budget was on my mind from the very beginning because of the controversies last year over it getting rejected or nearly rejected. And a lot of that had to do with the executive compensation. So in February, like in my second meeting, I talked to Doug Kita and I said, Doug, please go out and do a salary survey of as many as you can get. So we will have independently the board, not coming from the BCAD or the county or just a bunch of hearsay, do a survey, a technical survey, and find out where we stand on compensation, because that was the rub last year and it's probably going to be the rub this year. Doug went out, reached out to 30 different taxing appraisal districts, got responses from 23 and gathered a great deal of information. That information was then combined with the 26 survey that the BCAD did. Hill County did one in 25. The comptroller does an operational survey of the districts, and then just consumer price index. All that information was gathered together and worked through between Doug and some of the people at the district. And frankly, we were shocked at what we found. The headline is our executives are underpaid. And that may be true across the board. I don't know. It's certainly not true in some of these related counties, because you'd be shocked. You'd peel your hair off to find out what your neighbors are paying. Somerville pays $129,000 to their chief. We pay $94 right now. Somerville pays $129. Eastland County pays $196. Hill County, which is open right now, I think is at around $200, and it's an open position. And Johnson County is either $250 or $300 for just the chief appraiser. So anyway, it was shocking to us to find what we found. Let me be clear about something. If you actually have ever printed this thing out, or they gave it to you, I hope they didn't give you this whole thing. Sort of wish they would give you the whole thing. Some of you may have read some of this. If you look at the salary survey, I wish they had changed it before they sent it out, but when the salary survey first came out, it included it was kind of marching orders that you must pass this deal for a 3-year contract for the chief appraiser at $175,000, and I just want to tell you, we're not doing that. That's that very first meeting we had after we got to pass the preliminary budget. The very first thing I said to the people in the room there and to the board says, we cannot do that. Let's just take that off the list. So that's not what we're doing. Our current budget does bump our chief appraiser up about $15,000, and some of the other people, there's 2 other people that are critical to that operation, our assistant chief appraiser and Michelle De Leon, who really is the person that runs the place. She's been there for 18 years and knows everything and knows where everything is. We're bumping them up. I don't have the belief that next year it has to be done. Of course, we're not at next year, but I think we're getting it right this year, and we're getting that corrected. The second real reason, and I'm going to leave you with something and I'll leave some for the others that are here, that not just that the market is what the market is, and we're certainly not going to the competing markets around here, is that there's 254 counties in the state of Texas, and all these positions aren't filled. So there are less than 254 people in the state who are chief appraisers of appraisal districts. And they are highly trained people. They go to, they have to hold these licenses, and they have to keep up with it. And ours in particular have multiple layers of certification to do this job. It's not the easiest job to fill, both because of the training side of it and because it is maybe the most hated job in the county. And the second most hated job is the president of the board of the directors of the BCAD. So I just say to you that there is a market component that we as the board feel we have to take into account, and that is that our people can be lured away. And at this point in time, from all that we've learned in the last 6 months, we're proud of our people and we want them to stay. So I'll leave this with you. What it is, it's kind of interesting. There's some smart people over there. It's called a 2-pool comparison. So there's two different comparisons on here. One is just the similar peer counties from the standpoint of distance, population, the number of parcels, the number of staff, that kind of thing. In other words, they look like us. And then the second pool is 1 hour and 2 hours away from here, which is really the concept of who could lure away our people to work like Johnson County. They could easily go to Johnson County and work. So I'll leave that with you. If you're into numbers and the assessment, it supports the numbers that we put in the budget for the chief appraiser and the assistant chief appraiser. Most importantly, based on our zero-based approach, we stripped it down. Even with the raises, we come in $15,000 less than we charged you last year. You pay a portion of our budget, and so our budget, I don't know that there'll be too many places around the county where they can claim their budget is less than it was last year, but our budget is going to be less than it was last year. The total budget is more, but we are spending, that's just because the budget has to call for or allocate the spending of some reserve money. I heard today, in the courtroom I was in today, that our software is 19 years old. It's just even hard to believe that it works. But they are replacing our software at a cost of $200,000. So but it's money that's been, I think the word is obligated by prior boards over the last 8 years, setting aside money for software and real estate. They're not spending any money on real estate, but they're finally going to spend it next year. So it's in our budget, but it doesn't come from the taxing agencies. So as to the cost to you, our overall cost is going to be slightly less than it was last year. All right. With that said, I think I've given you perspective on where we are, the people that put it together, and kind of how we got to the number that seems to get the most attention, which is our salary. This big document that was sent to somebody around here is like 100 pages explaining the budget, and it's 60 pages explaining the survey. So you can, if you get it digitally, that's the best way, then you don't have to print it out, or you can just go through it and find what you want. Page 39 is the page you got laying right there, which is the heart of the budget. So with that, there may be some questions that we could exchange right now, and then again, I said I'd be happy to come back if you need be.
Okay, all right. What you have, we'll give to Taylor, and she can actually put it in and digitize it and send it to the council too,
But
so.
then I'm only going to give you one.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you for explaining the software. I noticed that, but I didn't know if it was something that was obligated by the state, if that makes sense, that it was,
No.
it's been allocated for this in the past, I guess, like the previous boards have said.
Yeah, what they did is, this is what I understand anyway, is they would send you a budget, they would have money that they didn't spend. Under the rules, they're supposed to return that money to you as the taxing agencies, unless the board obligates it to a specific reserve purpose. And I asked, when that was brought up, I asked the appraisal district to tell me what happened there, and they sent me 8 separate board minutes over about that window of time where each year they would get to, and they'd have $20,000 or they'd have $15,000 or something. And so they've just bulked it up over the last number of years, and it's been sitting there. Our actual reserve is $539,000, 200 of which will go to this. And then we have, the other portion has been obligated, if you will, towards real estate. If you've ever been in that office, it's a big problem for the BCAD. We can't solve it this year, and probably not next year, and maybe with the data center and a very flush county, we can figure out a county building or something, but we're not really working on that. And then we, unlike you, hopefully you, we have a lot of litigation costs, because when appraisals come in, the appraisal process is you try to work it out face to face. If you don't get that, you go to the ARB. If you don't get the review board to work it out, you can go to arbitration. That's when the lawyers start getting involved. And if you don't even get it done there, or if you don't choose arbitration, you end up in a courtroom, and those are long, expensive problems, and it's usually the bigger landowners, so they have money to fight with you, and so anyway, we reserve a lot of money for litigation.
Y'all have other questions?
Damaris, you mentioned a question about the travel, the auto allowance or the travel,
When we were talking yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so just, this is, item on your budget is under 530, it's 531 and 534. Just to clarify what those are, travel reimbursement, by the way, we cut it $6,000 this year. That really is for costs of going to training. These people, the law changes as much as anything, but we send our people to training every year. So this is hotel rooms and blah, blah, blah for the 6 people that have to go do that. The bigger number, which is auto allowance cell phone, which stayed where it is at $43,440, is the cost of, well, here's what they do every year. There are 23,000 parcels in Bosque County. We have to actually, what I call hard review, we have to go and focus on a third of those every year. So it's 7,000 some odd pieces of property, almost 8,000 pieces of property. And so a lot of that's done, it's done from aerial satellites, it's done from a lot of different perspectives, but those people are on the road. And so this is mileage expenses, principally mileage expenses, the auto allowance part, what we have, where we have to pay in their cell phones to go out and do that job. So there was somebody who questioned that number, and all I can do is tell you that's what apparently that's the 4-year average of what we have done over the last 4 years. And of course, fuel costs are doing nothing but going up, and so anyway, that's where the number comes from.
I also feel like you said this, but I just want to reiterate, just because it's sensitive. But, so the reserve money that will be spent for the software, all of that money has been, I mean, how am I trying to word this? Nothing new out of the reserves will be taken. That money in the past it was there for that purpose.
It's sitting there now.
Did that sentence make sense? It's up here, it makes sense. I can't get it out.
Yeah, the past boards have taken a portion of their budget and obligated it, set it aside, committed it to.
There's enough of that from the past. We're not pulling like new money from reserves.
No, it's not coming out
I mean,
of
I
your
know
pocket.
it's old because it's reserves, but.
I think all these agencies, I mean, if I may not have read it right, but I tried to figure out what Clifton's one of the few taxing agencies, by the way, that actually puts their numbers online so that the citizen can actually figure out where you are financially. And I may not have figured it out correctly, but I think you've got like $1.7 million reserve for the city. Well, this is basically, it's a $500,000 reserve, and it's just for things like this. I mean, I know one taxing agency I just talked to, and they hit me hard about the reserve, and then I sat and listened to their budget meeting, and they talked about the loan that they have to pay off because they had a problem and they don't have any money. So I didn't say anything. Nana boo-boo, that's what happens.
This is true.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, and really, you know how to get a hold of me if after.
Well, I have a couple of more questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, darn, I was trying to get out of here.
I know. Okay, so when we go back to, these are just questions and the questions that have been sent to me from other council. Is each, I believe, the chief and the deputy chief each receive about 12,000 plus car allowance a year.
I do not know the answer to that question.
In the 144 pages, it's in there somewhere.
Okay.
I've read it.
Okay.
I've read it. So my question is has that been given as part of a salary compensation? We will give you this instead of upping your salary because the salary is an issue.
I can't answer your question. This is my first pass. This is what happens when you get a fresh new board. I will admit to you that part of it, you know, if somebody's to say, my law firm used to do this, we used to send out this piece of paper that said, here's everything we give you, you know, because people forget about their medical benefits and their, all these things, and pretty soon it adds up to, you know, real money. So I do admit to you that in addition to salary, I would put that in within what they receive. It is very connected to their job, though. You know, it's not like I do not believe that the auto allowance, I asked this question because you had asked me about it. It's not like to pay a car payment kind of thing. It's not so they can have a car. It's expenses that they incur
I know what I said was, it's enough for a car payment.
doing their job.
But
Yeah, well, I
my
mean-
question is, do those two do that much driving around?
Oh, yeah.
Are they more in the office handling the hard part? So
No,
they
no,
are actually
they are
out in
on
the
the
county.
road, right. I just heard that again today, because I didn't really know.
Right.
That there's, I can only say what I heard today, which is that Chris and Justin both do spend time on the road, at places, evaluating buildings and circumstances that are there. There's only 4 of them, and they got, like I said, the number's really huge as to what they have to go look at.
Right. Now, I do have questions and I don't know if I can ask these in the best way since they were just sent to me. Would you be willing to come back on the 28th? We have a budget workshop that day, and they will be here.
It's no fair if it's Rustin, though, because he's a numbers guy. He'll eat me alive. So,
No, no.
I'd rather you ask.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. I will come back. When do you want to do it?
I believe it's the 28th, and it's at noon. It's during,
Of this month?
yes, sir.
Okay.
It's our budget workshop. Yes, it's the 28th at noon.
don't know
I don't know if I would do their questions justice, and I can actually ask them to maybe get them to you to find out, like,
That would be preferable.
somebody wanted more information on did they say CAMA or CAMA? Do you say CAMA software? And the progress. It says one spot has Mars in parentheses next to CAMA software. That was a red flag to them. Mars is used by large entities like Dallas and requires on-site servers. Not only is that overkill for Bosque County, but the IT cost of local server maintenance and security are completely unnecessary. There are more appropriately said priced and cloud-based applications out there.
Please-
That
Yeah, and I'm sure we're not doing that. So there's an explanation for it.
Okay.
If you would send those to
I
me,
will.
or they
I'll
will send
email
them
it
to
to
me, I'll either bring Chris, or, because he'll know the answers to all that, or I'll get the answers from him.
Okay.
And offer them.
I think that would just be a
Because they're
better
really good.
use.
Yeah, it'd be much better. You get
Okay.
better information.
All right.
And I'll ask a question about the allowance too, the car allowance, because I may not have
And
understood that
insurance.
completely. Pardon me?
And insurance, health insurance. Health insurance.
Oh, well, I do know about that. Do you want me to talk about that?
It's a question out,
Okay, so
rolling around out there.
Yeah, so there's a question rolling around about, in addition to the compensation that we have for particularly Chris Moser, that there's been some rumor out there, talk about how there's a line item in here somewhere that pays money for the cost of his children's health insurance. And as I understand it, my board 2 years ago, as part of his compensation process, agreed to dedicate $10,000 a year to his children's medical expenses. And the principal reason is he has 2 boys, one of whom is, we'll just call it special needs, without going into a great deal of detail, and has some very expensive medicines that go with that. And so that's, here's what he told me specifically, because I asked him. Everybody gets a health insurance allocation that costs $8,100 per person, okay? That's what, his is $1,530, so it's about $7,000 more than the next guy, or the rest of our employees. That's what our spread cost is.
Okay.
And so, yes, he does get more. Somebody did that a couple years ago. It's for a special reason. Probably back to this package of just trying to take care of him at the time with not having the kind of data that we have now that just suggests his comp should be there.
Okay.
So maybe there's an adjustment there. I don't know.
Move it maybe on up into salary to
Yeah.
show the truth. Okay, all right. Do y'all have anything else? I would like to thank, we all would like to thank the time and the effort that y'all have put into this and actually coming to all the, how many entities? You have
22.
The 22 entities.
We're not going to Jonesboro, though, and I don't mean to say anything wrong about you folks in Jonesboro. You're just too far away.
Well, we do appreciate all the time and, I mean, what you've put into this thought process, and we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Har.
Okay, next on the agenda, we are going to allow the Economic Development Corporation to open into their meeting.
All right, I will call our meeting to order at 6:35. I see that we have a quorum. I'd like to point out that Kat is also on the EDC board. Paige, can you verify the posting, please?
It was posted July 8th before 5 p.m.
Okay, did you get any public comment cards?
No, sir.
Okay, so we're ready to roll in to our agenda item number 1, and then we can call Jake.
Okay?
Here. Agenda item number 1, Clifton EDC Board participation in City Council meeting on July 14th at 6 p.m. at the council chambers.
Okay. So, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce, goodness sakes, Jake, I forgot your last name. Sorry about that. Jake Halter from Kimley Horn. He was here a few weeks ago doing a survey and looking at our parking study in the downtown. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Jake and let him do a PowerPoint for us.
Thanks, David. Just so I know, who's running the PowerPoint, so I know who it is? Oh, excellent. Okay, great. I'll just kind of give you a next slide when I'm ready. So yes, my name is Jake Halter. I am a traffic engineer from Kimley Horn. I've been doing parking evaluations for about 10 years, and we were brought in by the city to evaluate the city plan. So I'll kind of take a second here. My job wasn't to, design the parking plans. It was simply to come and collect data and, provide you guys with the information that you guys need to evaluate these plans moving forward. So if you go to the next slide, there's my smiling face there. We can go to the next slide. So just to kind of give us a kind of game plan going forward, we'll talk about the parking project. We'll talk about my data collection process. We'll talk about current challenges just with the parking layout, and then we'll get into the data, existing supply and demand. We'll evaluate the proposed supply and demand with the parking plan, and then we'll have a little wrap up. So if you'll go to the next slide. So this is a bit hard to see for some of you, but I think hopefully you're familiar with the parking plans that are proposed. So if you go to the next slide, I've got some notes here just to kind of give everybody a framework. So the city is adding parking along 3rd Street off to kind of the top left portion of your page there, providing mid-block pedestrian access along Avenue D. And then probably the part that you guys know the best, we're removing the parking aisle from Avenue D. And then the parking along either side of Avenue D is changing to head-in. So that's kind of broad brushstrokes. The plan, there's obviously there's other portions to it, but that's kind of the big points of the city parking plan. So if you go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about my data collection process. The first thing we did was just sat down on a call with David and said, hey, what is a good time to come down? When is a kind of typically busy day for Clifton? And we determined that, anytime kind of a middle of the week, lunchtime, to try and catch that lunchtime to late lunchtime rush hour was a good time to come down and collect some data. So on Thursday, May 7th, I was here from about 8 in the morning to about 2 in the afternoon. So I came down, took some photos of, just the different things that I saw. I took a number of, time-stamped data. I go around about every 15 minutes and collect data. And then we don't always do this, but for this project, we decided to go ahead and do some interviews with different business owners along Avenue D. I didn't get to speak to everybody, but got a pretty good, grouping of just, kind of walking in and asking, what are your opinions on the current state of parking? Do you know about the proposed parking plan? you want to give us your thoughts, and then anything I should know to take back to the city. So I'll bring up some of the points that were discussed from that here in a minute, but just trying to give me the best kind of well-rounded idea of the the parking in Clifton. So if we'll go to the next slide here. So these were kind of the zones that we used for our parking collection. These were the zones that were also affected by the parking plan, which is why we collected them. Moving forward, we'll have some graphs, but generally these are kind of color-coded. So I'll put this picture back up on the screen a few times to kind of help you guys to match, the colors and the numbers with what we're doing here. But generally, we collected on Avenue C, Avenue D, and on Avenue D, I broke it up into the different parking aisles that we have currently, and then 3rd Street, 5th Street, and then Avenue D north of 3rd Street. So if you go to the next slide, please. So some of the current challenges that we saw when we were walking around Avenue D was there's a kind of a lack of mid-block pedestrian access. So this was something that we also uncovered in some of our interviews. Clifton, as you guys well know, is a certified retirement community. So there's kind of a higher than any, a typical city portion of older patrons. And so kind of ramps and different sort of pedestrian access is a heightened, factor in people coming and enjoying downtown. And currently we have ramps on the 4 corners of Avenue D, but nothing in the middle. So difficult to make use of the middle of the parking or even the middle aisle if you have accessibility challenges. And then lane widths were another concern. If you get, you can kind of see it if you zoomed in, but there's, any sort of truck that's, an extended cab or extended bed will stick out into Avenue D currently. That's not a fault of the truck. It's just trucks are getting longer and they're very useful, so people will drive them. And so currently, if you have one, maybe not that big of a deal, but something that I saw when I was out there, if you get 2 of them kind of near each other, it really starts to narrow up those Avenue D aisles. And that's just a concern from an emergency services standpoint, trying to get, an ambulance or a fire truck down Avenue D. And frankly, it blocks visitors and customers. It might cause them to have to circle the block once or twice. And it just kind of, it's not the optimal customer experience when that happens. And so if you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's our picture again for supply and demand. And then the next slide will show the existing supply. I'll read these out in case you can't read those. So along Avenue D, we have 24 and then 18 and 24 for our 3 existing parking aisles. And then Avenue C also has 24. So kind of throughout this presentation, I'll refer to Avenue C and D as kind of like a downtown core. These are the places where you can get to Avenue D shops without having to cross a street. And so that kind of downtown core parking supply is about 90 spaces today. When we go one step out to 3rd and 5th Street, we add 32 more, bringing us to 122 spaces kind of right around Avenue D. Avenue D to the north does add a number of spaces, but just for the purposes of this presentation, we collected people parking in that area, but we're not going to include that supply into our numbers. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So this is a lot of data, but this is, I just kind of wanted to pop it up there. This is what we collected when we were out there. You can see we have Avenue D, Avenue C, 3rd Street, 5th Street, and Avenue D north of 3rd, color-coded there. If you'll hit the next slide, those the 2 numbers I have circled, so 49 occupied spaces for the downtown, and then 78 for kind of including 3rd and 5th Street. These, right at 1:15 p.m., these were our kind of high water marks for occupied parking throughout the day. And it was pretty much when we would expect, right after, right as the lunch hour is ending, about 1:15, where, people haven't necessarily left yet. And then, you've got shoppers coming in to overlap with that. So 78 and 49 were kind of our high watermark numbers there for parking demand. So that's filled spaces that we counted. So if you go to the next slide here, some of you guys may have been wondering, hey, you said earlier you were here May 7th. Wasn't that field day? So Breaking Bread was closed, and you're right. So we went ahead and for the Breaking Bread, we went ahead and modeled the parking that it would generate as a restaurant. So a typical restaurant about Breaking Bread size, about 25 seats, from our Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Manual, would generate 7 parked vehicles at the height of the lunch peak. We thought that was too low, so we doubled it up to 15. And so you'll see in our graphs, I'll show you as we're moving forward. We went ahead and just assumed Breaking Bread had 15 parked vehicles parked the whole time. So if you go to the next slide, please. That brings us to our proposed supply discussion. So again, these are the city's proposed parking plans. Sorry?
In ours, we don't have it.
Yeah, I didn't get yours till last.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So if you go to the next slide, the proposed downtown core supply, so Avenue D and C, just to kind of step you through the changes from the existing to the proposed, we are gaining 2 spaces on the kind of west and east sides of Avenue D because we're going from the angled parking to the head-in. But we are obviously losing 18 down the middle due to removing the central parking aisle. Gaining a space on Avenue C, so for a total of 13 kind of net lost spaces there. So Avenues D and C added up go to 77 spaces in the proposed parking scenario. So if you go to the next slide here. One more. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So this is kind of a graphical representation of the data I was showing earlier with Breaking Bread added in there. So what we're looking at here is Avenue D and then Avenue C with that Breaking Bread parking added in. So it'll peak at 49 that we had earlier plus 15. So it's peaking around 64, 63, 64 in that region. So if you go one more slide, we've got our 77 spaces of supply after the parking plan on Avenues D and C. We've got 64 spaces we expect to be filled. And so from the data we collected in the Breaking Bread assumption, we expect there to be 13 open spaces between Avenues D and C moving forward after the removal of the central parking aisle and the parking changes. So if you go to the next slide, zooming out one step and including 3rd and 5th Street. 3rd Street in this project adds a considerable amount of parking, 17 spaces. And so when you account for all of the parking changes from 3rd, Avenue D, Avenue C, and 5th Street, we're actually adding 4 spaces total from the existing to the proposed. So there's 4 more spaces after all of the changes along 3rd Street, Avenue C, Avenue D, and 5th Street after the parking plan would be implemented. So if you go to the next slide, we have a similar graph. This is including 3rd Street and 5th Street, and then the demand north of 3rd Street as well. And so our total maximum demand that we counted was 93, and again, that's that 78 we identified earlier with the 15 extra Breaking Bread demand spaces. So for a total surplus of 33 spaces. And I'll do a mea culpa here. If you have my written report, as I was making the presentation, I noticed I had put 48 spaces as the surplus. I'd forgotten to take out the Breaking Bread in that final number. So I apologize for that discrepancy. If you want an updated report with that number corrected, I have one with me, but that would be the only correction there. If you go to the next slide, this will kind of bring us to an end of the data that I've presented for you, and then we'll open up for questions. So kind of when we evaluated the plan, we saw that it adds pedestrian ramps mid-block along Avenue D, which we thought was a pro. It reduces the risk of Avenue D blockage by widening the drive aisle. And then we expect to see a parking surplus of 13 spaces if you're just looking at Avenues D and C. And then if you zoom out one step to Avenues D and C, 3rd Street, 5th Street, we expect a 33 space surplus from the data that we collected. So if you go to the next slide, I appreciate your time. I'll stick around as long as necessary to grill my data methods. But that's what we collected, so thank you very much.
Okay. Council? Y'all have any questions?
But you didn't take into consideration Avenue E or anything else that we had discussed?
We didn't take in any additional spaces from Avenue E, any changes from Avenue, or from 5th Street, any sort of TxDOT restriping of spaces and adding there. We didn't take into account the supply north of 3rd Street along Avenue D. Those were kind of omitted from this presentation. So there are other places where we could have gone and drawn in more supply to, frankly, make the numbers look, different in one direction. But we decided to just kind of keep the scope as small as was practical.
Okay. Weston, we'll open it up to your board to.
Yeah, does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns?
As an engineer, would you recommend on Avenue C that perhaps there ought to be handicap ramps in the middle of that block, since there is a walkway from Avenue C to Avenue D that accesses the pedestrian walkway across Avenue D?
I'm not going to opine on the specific designing of the plan. I would say it would need to meet ADA compliance and all of that, and I would leave the specific ramp placement to the city.
I know it's on, well, first off, Jake, thank you. I think you did a great job. I appreciate you coming to town. And I personally don't have anything more for Jake, but I've got a few questions for council. This is on our agenda tomorrow to take action on. And, if there's any comments, concerns, positives that y'all have, we'd be happy to hear them before our meeting tomorrow.
I think one of the things that I've been in the office with David and Miles as the discussion, he has taken to Miles the concept of, could we do this in phases? And, of course we can do it in phases. Doing it in phases spaces it out more, and it would be in the range of about 300,000 more.
Let me ask you a question along that line. When you don't do it in phases, that means you're going to close Avenue C and Avenue D totally when you
No,
pair them up?
I'm sorry.
No, you do it in phases.
When it happened, it was, let's do C and wait a year and see how it works. And then let's go back and do the next, and then let's go, that was where it was gonna be the additional 300. We will still do that in phases, so there's always,
So you're going to do it in phases, but you're not going to do it in long phases.
No.
You're doing it in short phases.
it'll be one project.
You
Go
like
ahead.
bid out at one time, not three different projects.
Of that PDC meeting where we talked about funding it in phases, I guess that's.
Because originally y'all had talked about possibly making this into three different projects.
Right.
And bidding out like Avenue C, finish Avenue C, let's see how Avenue C does, then we'll go ahead and bid out Avenue D. If you bid it out all at one time, you get a better price than you would at three different projects, and Jay can verify that from an engineering standpoint. But talking to Miles, it basically added, if we waited, say, a year, because right now, we're dealing with this on Avenue Q, our asphalt went up 20%. So, we don't know what's going to happen in the next year. So he's just anticipating from an engineer perspective, anywhere from about 80 to 100,000 per project if we bid it out in phases. Now, if we want to bid it out at one large project, we'd still put it in phases. We'd do Avenue C first, because I know we want to see, who's going to park over there. That's going to be the main construction out of everything. That's about, the average on that's going to be about $300,000 to just fix Avenue C, because that's a total reclaim. That's pulling the railroad tracks out, that's redoing the base, asphalt, all the way to Avenue D on down 3rd Street, excuse me. And then the other one, the second phase would be to do North Avenue D, which would be down by the Blossom Shop up to Toby's business down there, Olaf's. And
The west side first.
Do the west side first, and then they would, when they would do Avenue D on the 3rd, on the 100 block, that would be the last phase, and we do one side at a time, so we wouldn't be shutting everything off.
That was my concern, is that if you do it all at once, you're gonna.
Yeah, no, we would be doing it in phases, so it wouldn't be, because Avenue C will take the longest.
So you're gonna assure the merchants on Avenue D that there will be places for their customers to park.
Correct. Now, there will be, a few hiccups, and we know that during any kind of road construction, but we try to keep it down to a minimum as much as possible. So, but since we just now come to the conclusion of Kimley Horn doing the presentation, I don't have any hard numbers for y'all tomorrow, because we were wanting to know what y'all's opinion is, because originally y'all wanted me to come back with y'all to look at 3 different projects. So from our point of view, it's hard for us to ask the EDC board for an extra money and put another $150,000 back on the city, so that'd be another $300,000 in taxpayers' money. So we'd like to present this as one project like we did, but in 3 phases tomorrow.
I think that's reasonable. I think there's obviously a lot of benefits to that monetarily. I just know that at the April council meeting, there was kind of a push to park on Avenue C. And I'm interested to see, once it's a brand-new street, which we certainly need, will people actually park back there? I hope the answer is yes, but I don't really think there's any way to know until we do it. What I've got a little bit of negative feedback on the EDC that we kind of delayed this because we gave tentative approval and then rescinded it. But I want to say that, the reason we did that is because we've seen some different numbers on what I call the heart of downtown between 5th and 3rd on Avenue D. Currently, there's 66 spots. I know y'all are tired of hearing me say this, but when it was first brought to the EDC in January, it was the plan that I've got a copy of right here, changed it from 63 spots to 38, 60 non-handicapped to 30 non-handicapped. Our new plan, I think, is much better. The one Jake just reviewed has 52 spots in that area. But a concern I have, and again, I know that we probably should move forward as it's drafted, but this is a picture from today at 11:55, an aerial shot of 58 field parking spots. And of course, there's reasons for that. The shoulders are closed and what have you. But the way it's drafted, people would have to park elsewhere, on a regular day. And again, we'll have Avenue C. We'll hopefully, for the long term, continue to have highway right-of-way, which we're not guaranteed. But I think coming from 38 to 52 spots is certainly an improvement. And when we received this report, is the first time I'd seen what I hope is the finalized numbers. And so I think there was a reason for the delay, and I think the board will still support the project. But there is benefits to doing it in longer phases, seeing if people actually park there on a day like today, whenever it's a better street. But of course, that comes with a significant cost too. So.
I'm still have some concern about the head-in parking. I think for big vehicles, that's going to be tough, but.
Ask the traffic expert, is that?
But without
Well,
the middle.
he's already told us it's okay, because
But without the middle, I think it's just hard to visually.
it is hard.
That
to see.
street is so wide. So I think head-in is not going to be an issue. I was against head-in at the beginning, truly. I was like,
Your Suburban in there. And
but I hate driving my Suburban down that road when Weston's parked. I'm just kidding. But a truck like Weston's, I'm scared. I might not fit. I always do, but it's scary.
Well, I think Avenue D and further north, where there is head-in parking, is an indication of what it's going to be like to park on Avenue D
without this.
without that center island in there.
And there's plenty of room there.
Yeah.
when we're talking about walking, I just had it sounds creepy, like I had a vision, but I just had a thought of other small communities that maybe have progressed a little bit further than us with progress and all their shops filled, and I don't have a problem in one of those towns. I think we're all so used to, like, I get to park in front of the one place I'm going, but in another community, I have no problem walking 5 shops down or 1 block down. So, I mean, it may be something we have to get used to, but I hope that that's a problem. I hope it takes me 20 minutes to get fed at Corner Drug because it's so busy, you know? That's,
The parking on Avenue C, you know, the street's gonna be nice and new and sparkling, but the back of those buildings are still gonna be the same.
I can't do anything with the buildings.
You know,
That's up in Main Street, beautification project or something.
it is, it's gonna be a great addition, I agree.
Jake, you'd say that a 9-foot parking spot is standard width?
Yep, yeah, typically, yeah.
I mean, that's what I think too, but I think that's the thing to do to maximize the number of parking spaces. But I looked up today that, you know, let's say a F-150, I think is right at about 8 foot wide. And I think the 9 foot kind of goes to the center of the stripe, to the center of the stripe. And so I can see people, after this project's complete, complaining that we still can't open our doors when we get parked. But again. if
I'd
we-
rather lose a spot and not feel like I'm in a compact spot.
Well, I think you'd be talking about losing multiple spots. And again, he's saying that 9 foot is standard, which is, it is. But I just think that's something to know that, you know, right now it's real tight if you park facing the buildings. And I don't think that's necessarily gonna change. It'll be head in and maybe it'll be easier to get in between the lines. But I think regardless, if 2 full-size vehicles next to each other, it's still gonna be tight. I just think that's something to know.
What are they right now? Julie, do you know?
No.
As much as we've, you know, when we would,
Well, I don't have any trouble opening my doors when I go on the spot.
okay.
If you have a trouble in Clifton, you've never been to Trader Joe's.
Yeah, no. Again, it's definitely standard. I mean, and I wouldn't recommend going any bigger because we lose spots, but
Right.
as big as vehicles have gotten these days, it just is what it is, I think.
We need to have the opposite of compact parking. We need to have big truck parking somewhere else.
Well, and nothing's
Just
gonna
kidding.
be perfect.
That's right.
And we're gonna have some growing pains on this. I do think Avenue C will be a great addition. And as the construction on D is happening, people will need to park on C. And I think that that'll be a good learning, oh, well, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And, oh, it's a nice street. So, you know, I think the staff has done a good job at trying to put this all together and meet as many needs as we can with taking care of our businesses and make sure our citizens and the business patrons can get down there. It's just a slippery slope. Yes, sir.
Just any possibility of the question that I asked that Jake didn't answer about putting the handicap ramp
Yeah, we take a
on
look,
C?
we take a look, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, we have, I mean, because back there on C, that whole deal, I mean, it's.
Yeah, that's a steep curve
Now,
now.
we could look at that right when, it basically make it adjacent to the other
Yeah,
one.
since you've got a walkway through there that you want people to use.
Now, that will take a parking space or
Taking up
two.
probably about 2 parking spots out.
Yeah.
But I think you're correct, because if people are parking up there and they can't get a, you know, the wheelchair up there, I think it's a great idea.
So that would be a discussion. I mean, it would take a couple of parking spaces. 2 at the most
Yeah, it depends.
for that length. So, for everybody to realize that when they go back out and count and go, there's supposed to be 2 more spaces here. But it is correct. You know, we are a retirement community, and we have a lot of people that go to our downtown that are in walkers. I know one that arrives in a wheelchair to go to have her hair done once a week. We do want to make sure that they can get down there. I know that some have said going down there, if there are no handicap parking spaces, they have to go somewhere else. And so we want to make that as much available to them also.
Well, I
So,
feel much better about the project now. I feel like we've had a professional company, that that's what they do. He said he's been doing counting parking spots for 10 years. That's, to me, that's good information.
Just to kind of let y'all know what TxDOT's doing out there also on 219. I've talked to them and asked them to put in a four-way crosswalk across in the downtown area also. That'll definitely help. Also to make sure they have marked parallel parking. So that'll add to it. So, and right now, people are just parking wherever they want to park. So if we have defined spaces, that would put people in the defined spaces. So that would add to it also. And this doesn't include Avenue E that we were talking about, adding 10 spots off Avenue E.
any other
Anything else?
questions?
No, I appreciated the data presented with hard numbers. Like it's easy to eyeball it when you're down there, like, wow, it's really full, but having actual facts to go on is good.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn our NEC meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Jake, I'd like to thank you for all your hard work and your drive down here, and congratulate Jake. He has a brand-new child.
Yay.
So we were trying to work with him, bless his heart, during some leave he was trying to take. So I appreciate you working with us.
Yeah, absolutely, it was a pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Mostly tell your wife thank you.
It was child for, so.
Now,
I get that.
I think we have-
I'm thinking that everything else we have, we will move to our 28th meeting because there's no more discussion. So I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Well,
Oh, I can't adjourn.
yeah, I was like, we can't.